All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and if you're here, it's because you're ready to reduce stress, burn stubborn fat, and get your body working with you instead of against you. On this podcast, we're all about simple, no BS strategies for fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. This way, you can feel strong, confident, and in control. I'll give you the tools, mindset shifts, and habits to help you look and feel your best without spending hours in the gym or stressing over every single meal. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back, guys, or should I say ciao, because I just got back from our honeymoon to Italy. We spent 12 to 13 days there, and there's a lot that I want to unpack. And today, I want to talk about the ability for the Italians to focus on health in a way that we don't here in America. And I want to say that it's not, this episode isn't going to be about Italy versus the US in terms of which country or which culture is better. It's more about acknowledging that what if the key to better health isn't just about diets and workouts, but about how we live day to day. You see, in being in this field and talking about this a lot, even I get caught up in what workouts are we doing? What's the best workout for this phase of life that I'm in? What's the best diet to be eating? Which foods are going to benefit me the most? And yes, that stuff is important, but if that's our obsession and our focus is diets and workouts and workouts and diets, and that's all we're ever thinking and talking about, that leaves you feeling flat, right? We're not getting the juice out of life that we should be and experiencing things in a way that you might not have ever thought possible, right? And today I'm going to unpack 5 things that I noticed about the culture and about the way Italians approach health that might be beneficial for you. Maybe you can learn something from this and take away a habit or just a thought process that can open you up to a new way of living and maybe make things a lot easier for you on your health journey. So again, this episode isn't about Italy versus USA. It's about just expanding our minds. And I believe that that's the amazing thing about travel is that where you live, the people you surround yourself with, the day-to-day habits that you have keep you in this scenario, the life that you're living. Now, when you go ahead and remove yourself from that setting and place yourself somewhere else, and for me, it wasn't just another state in the US, it wasn't just going to Jersey or a couple states away, it was to a completely new country that I had never been. Right? This means the buildings look different, the scenery is different, the people speak a different language, the food is different, the smells, the sights, the scenes, everything is different. The culture, the way people approach life is different. And what that does is allow you to create new neural pathways in your brain and be open to new thoughts, new patterns, and just a new approach that maybe you had never thought possible. Maybe that was never something on your radar until you go to that new place. So that's why I love travel so much, is because not only do you get to experience new things, it opens your brain up to thinking different ways. And that's what we're going to do today. So the first thing that I wanted to cover is in Italy, the Italians seem to have movement as a lifestyle. You see, the cities and towns that we were going to are more populated. So we went to Rome, we went to Florence, and we went to Sorrento. So I know it's a very big country, and those are tourist attraction places, and there's a lot of countryside, and this doesn't apply to every single space in Italy. So if you're Italian or you live there or whatever, understand that what I'm saying is based off of my experience and the places that I went. I'm not generalizing every single person in the country, right? But what I've noticed is that movement is more of a lifestyle rather than just exercise. So the cities and towns, at least that I were in, are built for walking, right? That's the primary mode of transportation, is that things are close by. There's restaurants on every corner. There's businesses in places that you can get to by foot. And it was almost encouraged that you do it that way, right? Like when we went to restaurants to go to eat, we chose to walk there even if it was a mile or two away, because we knew that it was going to be a gorgeous walk with new buildings that we were going to see. We were going to eat a meal, and that would allow us to walk home and digest. But what else I noticed was even though there was cars and a lot of traffic in a place like Rome, the cities were still built for walking first. And then a lot of people had scooters because the roads weren't as big, and that's just an easier way to get around, and then cars. So walking was the first mode of transportation. And then, maybe you had a scooter, and very few people, not few, but there was a lot of people, but less people had cars. For the most part, you saw people walking everywhere. Now, what does that mean for your lifestyle, right? How does it apply for movement as a lifestyle? Is the fact that the more steps that you get, that's going to aid in your digestion. Like I said, if you had to walk a mile to dinner, eat, and then walk a mile back or walk to work, you're digesting your food better, right? You're also going to burn more calories naturally because if you're walking more, you're burning calories, and that's going to lead to a better metabolism. So if instead of always focusing on what exercise should I do, you live in a place or you set up your lifestyle to where you can walk to work, to the places that you need to get to throughout life, it's helpful. So these cities, the way the Italians have it set up is that they're walking a lot, and that's just a part of their lifestyle. Now, we compare that to the car culture in America. Now, I'm someone who loves cars. I think they're awesome to look at, awesome to drive. It's a cool experience. But if you go back and actually look at, the way our cities were set up, it was for profit. People like Henry Ford, who started the car industry in America, they actually made it so people had to live further away from their jobs. So let's say the jobs were in the city, they would make these neighborhoods in the suburbs so that you had to drive into the city to go to work, and you therefore needed to purchase a car. Now, I know, again, in Italy, there's probably suburb type towns and places in the countryside that aren't easily accessible by walking. But for the majority of where we were at, it was a lot of walking, it was a lot of cities, it was a lot of things close by. Whereas in America, we're more spread out to the point of suburbs and living on out, some people live on farms to where if you want to go get groceries or you want to go to someplace like Target or a store, you have to drive. And I know for myself, living in somewhat of the suburbs, we have to drive everywhere, right? So therefore, if you're working and you're sitting in a desk and in a chair, if you're doing things and you're sitting down and then you're driving, you are walking a lot less. And I know I was on vacation and I was a quote unquote tourist, but we were averaging 20 to 25,000 steps per day. Compared to now, I have to work really hard to get 10,000. Some people have to work really hard to get 5,000. So it's just a big shift in the way we approach things, and how in America, we are more car culture, and in Italy, they are more walking culture. And you can notice it because the first thing that I noticed when I got there was how small the cars were because they can't fit on the roads. It's a lot of like smart cars and hatchbacks and Fiats and these little Mini Cooper type tiny cars, whereas here, we're driving around Suburbans and Escalades and big SUVs and nice cars, and you don't see that there. It's just a vehicle to get you from one place to the next. So they hop in these little vehicles or scooters or the smallest mode of transportation to get you there rather than, driving around in your big souped up Escalade. Nothing wrong with that. I think Escalades are awesome. I would love to own one. But that's just how the culture is different because they prioritize walking. The second point I wanted to make is that when it comes to eating and their food culture, there happens to be a lot of focus surrounding digestion. And I kind of knew this, but didn't know the details as much until I got there and started to talking to some people. So one of the big things that people told me before going was don't order a cappuccino after 11 a.m. So obviously I'm going to research, like, why would I not do that? I saw a couple of videos online and also asked people while I was there. And the main thing is because of digestion. So a cappuccino is just espresso and milk. And milk slows down your digestion. So Italians believe if you're having it after 11, it's going to slow down your digestion and make you more lethargic throughout the day. Therefore, before 11 o'clock, you can have your cappuccino with milk in it. After that, you want to just have espresso because it's just pure coffee and caffeine, right? Which, according to them and science, it speeds up your metabolism and your digestion. So in the morning, you can have your cappuccino with milk in it. After that, you would have a meal, let's say lunch, and then you'd finish your lunch with an espresso, un caffè, right? That's how they say a coffee or espresso in Italy. And that helps speed up your metabolism and your digestion. So even their coffee is structured culturally throughout the day to prioritize their digestion. It's pretty cool, right? Where we think, we just eat what we want to eat at lunch, at breakfast. It's whatever you're enjoying and whatever fits into your diet. Whereas even the way they drink coffee is set up to prioritize digestion, which I thought was pretty cool, right? It's not like what diet are you on or this is good or bad. It's like, no, we want to have better digestion, so this is how we do it, right? Another thing that I noticed about digestion and food culture was the fresh, local, and organic food, right? You don't really even have to ask if things were organic because they don't use chemicals and pesticides and preservatives as much as we do over here. And it's all locally sourced. So the tomatoes you're eating, the meat you're eating, it's all from farms and locally sourced places so that it was picked not too long ago. It wasn't sprayed with chemicals and you're eating real food. So the more organic it can be, the fresher it can be, and the more local it can be, the better the food is going to be. If I picked an apple from a farm 10 minutes down the road and ate it a day later, it's going to have more nutrients and be more fresh than something that was plucked 3 weeks ago, sprayed with pesticides, put on a truck, sent, to me thousands of miles away, put on a shelf, then I grab it and then I take a bite of it. There's no comparison to how much more nutrients, how more fresh, how better tasting, and how much better for you the food is when it's organic, when it's locally sourced, and when it's just fresh, right? So that's a big thing that they do. They're not putting, dyes and preservatives and chemicals in their food. One thing that stood out to me was we were in a mini mart and I looked in the fridge and they were selling Powerades in there. And there was a red Powerade and I noticed it was like a really weird color. It just seemed dull to me. And I was looking through the ingredients and that's because they didn't have the artificial dyes. And you can look this up, right? In America, they claim it's like marketing that children like the bright neon colors. So if you're looking at cereals and Gatorades and colored juices, they're really bright and neon and like attractive almost. It's like a marketing scheme. So they use these food dyes to create this color that it's more attractive to people to buy. Whereas in Italy, they know that stuff is harmful for you, so they don't care if it has a slightly dull reddish color. It's got artificial sweeteners and not artificial sweeteners. It's got natural sweeteners and natural coloring in there from fruits and vegetables, and it's healthier for you. So although the Powerade wasn't bright, shiny neon red, it was more of a dull, cloudy color. It's going to be healthier for you. So that was the cool thing that I noticed when I went to the mini mart. So the takeaway from this is that when it comes to eating food, digestion is central for Italians, not an afterthought. So they prepare their day, their structure, their meals so that when they eat food, their digestion is improved rather than giving you gas, bloating, indigestion, and all those things that we have from eating on the go or eating things with preservatives and chemicals in them that lead to a mess down the road. Now, point number 3 that I noticed and that I jotted down was stress, community, and pace of life, I called it. Because a lot of times on this channel, on the podcast, and on my social media, I talk about stress. Stress is the ultimate killer for our health, right? It affects everything that we do. And if we want a long, healthy life, we need less stress. And if we want a short life and to cause disease, we're going to have higher stress. Now, there are things that are good stressors, right? I'm not saying that all stress is bad, but if you have chronic stress in ways that are not suitable for your lifestyle, that's going to cause problems. And the Italians seem to have their focus on, it's less focused on the grind and that entrepreneurial hustle, and it's more on being present, it's being community-based, and building relationships, which is what I noticed is like, even though there were people in suits and working hard, and of course they do that, you have to make a living and people want to make a lot of money. That's great. Hey, hope you're loving the episode so far. Thanks for spending some time with me. I got a quick favor to ask. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because that's how I know you're getting value from the show. And this way, you never miss an episode. All right, now back to the show. But even those people had a sense of strolling about. These people would be in their suits and their loafers, and you could tell they were working or going to work, but they weren't sprinting onto the subway with their backpack and their espresso. They were casual, they were walking, they were slow, they had this calm presence about them, right? So it's not that grind culture like we need to be stressed out and stress makes diamonds and work 25 hours out of the day and make as much money as you can. It's more so, how can we protect our community? How can we protect our relationships with other? If you see someone, you're saying hello. A lot of passing by people, saying good morning, saying hello, stopping and having a conversation, sitting with someone and having a coffee and having that conversation and being present. You could tell that they were totally immersed with the conversations that we're having, right? Rather than being on their cell phones, on social media while they're with someone. No, the phones are away. They're having their cup of coffee or their lunch or their breakfast or whatever, and just having deep conversations. You know, there are a lot of things that cause divide in the world, whether it's religion or race or where you live, right? And people have these battles. It's like, you're not from here, so get out of here, right? Like there's these things that cause divide within humans. And one thing that I seemed to notice while we were in Italy was that Italians, they welcomed a lot of people, but they also really protected the Italian culture. Right? If you were another Italian, they were saying hello to you, good morning, having that deep conversation and creating a bond between one another because they know that human connection is important, and not only important, but necessary to thrive in this life, right? If you want to do anything or create anything great, we need others and we need connection. And I feel like we've lost a little bit of that in America, where there's this, oh, you're this race or you're Republican or you're Democratic, and we get so caught up in the weeds. And really, we should just be so proud and focus on the fact that we're all Americans, and how can we collaborate and connect over that, right? It's like they saw another stranger, and because they were Italian and in that culture, they immediately bonded and created connection. And I feel like in America, we need to do more of that, where it's like, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my countrymate in America. We should be proud of each other and support one another so that we can dominate our lives and lead a blissful, joyful existence. And that is something that I feel like we need to get back to, is put those other factors aside and say, you're American, you're from here, let's support one another and do the best that we can. So the fourth thing that I thought was really important was this phrase, and I think I saw it on a commercial, and it was the phrase was "La Bella Figura," and I'm probably saying that improperly, but what that means is the beautiful figure, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the potential project and the word arete that I talk about a lot, and it's showing up as your best self. But the beautiful figure applies to the way you present yourself in appearance, your energy, your character, your charisma. Like I said before, I saw a lot of Italians with full suits on, loafers, and just casually walking through the streets. Now, these were people who were in Rome, and they probably had a type of job that involved that. But mind you, it was hot out. So they don't care about the temperature, they care about how they're presenting themselves. So rather than wear flip-flops or sneakers and shorts, they knew that they were working, so they were going to put on their nice suit. They had their combed hair, their finely, done facial hair. The women had their makeup on. They had their full, outfits on. They looked amazing. And they were just strolling through the streets with their calm confidence. And that is La Bella Figura, right? They're showing up as their best self. They have their cologne on. They smell nice. They look nice. They're presenting themselves in a way that says, I care about myself. I care about the way I show up in the world. To me, that's very noble and a very cool thing to do, because think about the opposite. Your hair's real raggedy, you got a beard, or you just look in shambles. You're wearing old, ripped up clothes. I mean, people wear pajama pants and Crocs out in public. I just can't understand it. You go to Walmart or you go to places and people are dressed like crap. Whereas in Italy, again, not everyone is perfectly dressed, but for the most part, people care about how they showed up in the world. So it brings that calm confidence from you to other people. And another thing is the kindness. Like I said, you're greeting people, you're saying hello, you're letting people cross the street while you're driving, you are present and your phone's away when you're having a conversation with someone, you're having an interaction with the person you're buying the sandwich with from the shop. Like, all of these things
go a long way in the way you present yourself in the world. And that is really, really cool and important. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can say it, but that's how the Italians focus on it, is la bella figura. So the connection with health is the fact that it breeds confidence, it improves your social health, it lowers your stress, and it builds stronger relationships. So all of those things are going to impact your overall quality of life. Because if you're someone walking around with your head held high, a calm kindness and confidence about you, you're going to have lower stress levels. You're going to be someone who builds strong relationships, who people look up to, who they can count on. And that goes a long way in not just your mental health, but in your physical health as well. The fifth thing was quite funny, and it was the smoke. I called it the smoking paradox, because as soon as we got over there, it seemed like every single person was smoking cigarettes. Like if you were an Italian citizen, by default, you smoke cigarettes. I saw regular cigarettes. I saw a lot of women smoking the thin cigarettes. I saw some people hand rolling their own cigarettes. And no, they weren't joints, they were cigarettes. So all different types of ways to smoke, but for the majority, people were smoking. Now, some people had caught on to the e-cigarettes and the vapes, but I'd say 80 to 90% of the people were just smoking regular tobacco cigarettes. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, because in America and in the world, we know how dangerous cigarettes can be for your health, how much they impact your lungs, your oxidative stress. They cause disease, they can cause cancer. There's so many bad things in them. But why are so many people still smoking cigarettes in Italy? And I even saw a couple boxes of cigarettes. They don't just say in big bold letters, smoking can kill you and cause cancer. Like they say that. There's also a picture of people who were deathly ill. So it's a big picture of someone in like a hospital bed and then a big sign on it that says, this can kill you. But mind you, more people than not were smoking cigarettes. So the reason why I called it the smoking paradox was because I looked up on the internet. The life expectancy in Italy is 83.7 years old, and the life expectancy in the US is 78.4. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this, right? And we can talk data all that we want, but it was quite alarming that in a country where the majority of the people smoke cigarettes live longer than in the US, which is we have the top healthcare, we have the top resources. We are like one of the top countries in the entire world. But why are the people in Italy living longer, even though it seems like they smoke more? Well, despite smoking, they have fewer chemicals in their food, they have stronger digestion, they have lower stress, they have better connection. So all of these things are creating resiliency in their body to fight off the effects from smoking. So when you smoke a cigarette, it causes oxidative stress on your cells. That damages the cells. Obviously, that is not a good thing. And I'm not enforcing anyone to go smoke. But do you know what else causes oxidative stress on your cells? Chemicals, preservatives, seed oils, lots of sugar. All of those things cause the same effect that cigarettes do, just in a different way. Right? So if you are someone who doesn't smoke cigarettes, but you're eating a lot of processed foods, fried foods, sugary foods, you have a high stress job, that's going to cause ill effects like diabetes, like cardiac disease, like dysfunctions with your brain, with your digestion, right? That causes problems downstream and causes disease leading to an earlier death, right? You don't really notice people who are extremely obese, like 400 or 500 pounds, that are also 80 years old. You just don't see that because most likely they've passed away long before that. So what I'm saying is it was such a like hit to like it was such a paradox to me to think about. Like, wow, these people are legit all smoking. Young, old, women, men, didn't matter. They were all smoking cigarettes, but because of those other things, like walking all the time, eating whole foods, creating connections, having a more calming pace about the day, it fought off the stress that cigarettes put on them and still allowed them to live to, on average, 83 years old. And if you've heard about blue zones, there's blue zones in Italy where people are living past 100. So this is pretty cool because you got to think, right? If you live in that type of culture and you live that type of way and you don't smoke cigarettes, well, then you should be able to live into your 80s, 90s, if not 100 years old. That's pretty awesome, living vibrantly and living a long, healthy life. So the bigger point is that it's not just about one bad habit, it's about the total lifestyle picture. So, in all, this was not about Italy versus the USA. It was about what matters most for your health, right? Things like daily movement, supporting your digestion, eating real whole foods, right? Prioritizing connection over hustle. And I'm all about working hard. I think it's a prerequisite for anything that you want to achieve. It takes hard work. But when you're present, you're going to get more juice out of what you're doing, right? Let's say you are in sales and you're meeting with someone and you're worried about getting the sale or your numbers and your KPIs versus just making a real connection with someone and seeing how you can help them. You're more likely going to make the sale or get benefit out of that if you're just creating a connection rather than hustling. In relationships, in your day-to-day life, if you're just hustling trying to get to the next thing, you might miss out on an opportunity. Whereas in Italy, a lot of times they're waving hello, they're stopping, they're having that conversation, they're being present and making real connections. And then lastly is to show up as your best self. The way you dress, the way you smell, the way you look. And it's not all about looking like some perfect Instagram, model or something like that. It's having that character and having that pride in who you are and how you're presenting yourself to the world. And that goes a long way. If you're someone who cares about themselves and cares about life, other people are attracted to that, and you're going to be able to make an impact in not only your life, but others as well, because you're leading as someone who cares and someone who is for the betterment of others in this world. So my call for you guys is to reflect on all of these things that I said that were Italian inspired ways of living, and try to make a shift in the way you're thinking, and maybe open yourself to one adjustment in your daily routine. Maybe you are slower with the way you eat your food. Maybe you're going to make better connections and put your phone down. I don't care, right? Something that is going to be able to affect your life in a better way, and choose that and see how it feels, right? Maybe you listen to this again and jot down some of the things that I said, but I hope that this all made sense to you, and the fact that the Italian culture is really based on connection, on humans, rather than what diet, what exercise, and what business are we doing, right? It's about human connection and optimizing every single part of that. So I hope you guys have a great day. If you enjoyed this, share it with a friend, or more importantly, take action and implement this into your own life so that it can make a benefit for you. And I will see you guys next week.
Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show, or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.